American companies cut much faster than European and other companies around the world. And as such, they will hire back quickly. That was one view. Another view was that 50% of the jobs lost, about 7.3 million jobs lost, will not come back at all. And I guess what I'd like to do is ask the panelists about that and a little bit about Maria's slide, where there's several things going on, and she maybe spent a little bit of time talking about the slide as well.
Well, just to start with the slide, and this is really to Ryan's comment, which is it's all about jobs, really. And if you look at vacancy rates, and these are vacancy rates, the bars are CBD, Central Business District, and non-CBD, suburban vacancy rates, going back from 86, looking forward to 2012. And then the relationship of that, and I believe this is office-using jobs, so not total employment. And if you follow the trends, you can see exactly what happens to the vacancy rates and to the real estate market as we either lose or gain jobs, and that's really going to be the key. I think to the comment that was made, and there were several that were made at ULI, that it is true that we gave up jobs quickly and the jobs will come back rather quickly. It just is a question of when and where and what jobs. Will some jobs be gone and lost forever? Possibly. Some jobs that might go overseas because there are lower costs for doing certain things there. Jobs that might be lost because of increased productivity. But the fact is, once again, we went from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. We saw manufacturing move from the U.S. to Mexico, then to Asia. Now it's moving back to Mexico. Everything is cyclical, and we will reinvent ourselves, as the mayor said this morning. So for the jobs that are lost, we're compelled to come up with new jobs. But this is the key right here. And if we're anywhere near correct, by 2012, oh, I'm red, I'm sorry. By 2012, we should be back down to about a 12% vacancy rate in the CBDs and running about 15% in the non-CBDs. But one last comment, we were much worse in the mid-'80s. We've seen worse in commercial real estate.
Great, so we've seen worse.
Well, the point I would make is that the vacancy rates shown here are those that are classically calculated. The reality is I don't think there's a business person in this room that hasn't laid somebody off and has capacity inside the envelope of the building that they have. I don't see anything particularly joyous in the circumstance, because typically in our business we recover in commercial real estate about 6 quarters after job growth comes back into the market. So it takes a while before people fill up all those vacant cubes that are sitting in their offices now, and we get to a point where there's new effective demand in most of the marketplaces. So, it's debatable as to when the impact of this job growth, however it is really going to translate into demand for additional commercial real estate. I think it's that gap that is also one of the things that we have to consider going down the road.
I'll try to break it down into what that means for the local market. And if what we're saying is that job growth isn't going to come back until sometime in 11 and 12, what does that mean for the rest of us in this room? Well, to me, that means that 2010 is going to be another difficult year. We're going to have to grind it out in 10, but it's a market share game, right? You still have leases that expire every 5 to 7 years across sectors, office, industrial, retail. And so even though we're not going to have job growth in 10, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have activity. And it doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of work for all of us in the room, whether you're an attorney or you work for a title company or you're a service provider. It's a market share game. So you got to get in front of a larger percentage of those deals that actually are going to happen in 2010 and survive through the year and wait until 11 and 12 until there is some growth and we all start growing and there's more business and the pie grows.
Everybody asked the question, when are we going to recover? And I think the question itself is a little misleading, because recovery is really a sequence of events. And we've already seen the first big event, I think, which is positive GDP growth. It was overshadowed by the employment report for October that came out just a week later. But nonetheless, positive GDP growth is a great step in the right direction, in my opinion. I think the next thing, we'll see job losses begin to abate. And they have abated somewhat already. I mean, certainly from the losses that we were seeing earlier this year. So I think, even though it's true 2010 isn't going to feel very good or like a classic recovery, I think it's going to feel better than 2009, because keep in mind the first few months of this year everybody was still thinking that another Great Depression was still on the table. 2010, I mean, people, I think tenants are sort of realizing where things are, landlords, we're all kind of on the same page. The economy is gradually pulling itself up by its bootstraps. So I think you're going to see actually more deals done both on the investment and the tenant side. Red light, next year. That's it.
Now I do agree with Bob. I think, not completely, but largely. I think it is just a sequence of events, and Bob's absolutely right. The key was to get the economy growing. We saw that in the third quarter. I had to be more optimistic than I think most of the people up here. I do think that we are going to see a reasonably good economy. I think it'll surprise on the upside. Are we going back to great growth? No. But I do think that the economy or business generally went into this recession extremely lean and mean. One of the indicators that I watch closely is sublease space, and I've been very surprised that we haven't seen a spike in sublease space. There may be some tax technical issues or reasons, but I don't think the market is being flooded with sublease because corporate America was efficient. So I think when growth does return, I think we will be pleasantly surprised that there will be almost an immediate pickup.
Can I, Mark,